everybody. It is now week 2 in our Hello Spring Knit Along, which is happening for the month of April. And it is happening online every Friday at 4 p.m. live, just like we're doing now. You're able to watch the video at any time. You can go back to week 1. You can reference it whenever you like. We're also doing a small in-store knit along group every Friday from 1 till 3. And that's really fun to see the projects take shape. So what are the projects? In case you missed last week, we have project number 1. It's fully completed. The store sample, which is called Sonoran Shawl. And it is a gorgeous shawl. I'll put the link down below for the Ravelry pattern. It's a gorgeous shawl that's knit as a rectangle, but it is knit on the bias, so it gives it a very unique tip-to-tip shaping. And it is using 4 different colors of hand-dyed merino. We've chosen Richard DeVries Pepino because he does have the best speckles. And the 4 shades are to represent the spring blooms in the Sonoran Desert. So 4 shades, but it does take 7 skeins. Each of the colors is used in a different amount. So color number 1 and 2 skeins each. Color number 3 is 1 skein, 65 grams, 225 yards. And color number 4 requires 2 skeins. So I'm going to show you how I'm styling it in different ways to give you some inspiration or ideas. And if you're looking for the same colors that we've used for this one, the kits, we do have a list of people waiting for them, and the yarn is being dyed, and it should arrive in a few days. So we will have it ready to ship out. There are other color combos. If you look at our events page, Hello Spring KAL, which stands for Knit Along, you just click on Discussion tab and follow the thread through, and you'll see all the different color combos that you can choose. You can create your own, or you can ask for dealer's choice, which would be my selection. If you tell me you like more spring colors, then I can choose something that would suit that palette. If you like more the autumn in the desert, I can choose something that suits that palette. We can work together on it. So how is everyone doing? Are you enjoying the first official week of April, getting ready for Easter activities and cooking up some food? Now, we will be closed next Friday, which is Good Friday, so that means we won't have a live segment in our knit along, but I will be posting any updates, and you'll see it all show up on Facebook. Okay, so what else can I tell you? So we'll go into the details of Sonoran Shawl. There's quite a few changes to the number of repeats throughout the shawl, and I have posted them in the events page, but I'll just read them out here because I find a lot of people are not able to find them in the events page. So we are mentioning the needle size is a 4mm, but if you are the least bit of a loose knitter, please go down to 3.75. You can use circular, you can use straight needles. I knit the whole width on 10-inch straight needles because I like to really scrunch up my stitches and move them quickly. So the choice is up to you for the type of needle. Aluminum or birch or bamboo works well. I happen to be working on birch needle, which did work very well for the springiness of the merino fiber. And the finished shawl in the designer's notes comes out to 20 inches wide by 81 inches long. And I find with the blocking, I was quite aggressive with the blocking. I'll go over that with you at the end. But this came out to about 91 inches long. So it's a good thing that the rows were shortened throughout the different lace and garter stitch patterns. And skill level is intermediate. There is some lace work and lots of mindless garter stitch where you can kind of look out the window, video chat with your friend, watch Netflix, watch a few videos, and you will not get lost in the pattern. And there is the make one, which is the increase, and knit two together, which is the decrease. So the pattern is written paragraph by paragraph, very easy to follow. It does have charts if you prefer the charts for the lace work, or you can follow the written directions for the lace work. So the changes that we've made are starting on page 5. So pattern 11, which is lace 1, that will be using color 2. The pattern is requesting that you repeat rows 3 to 10 3 times more. We're reducing that to 2 times more because that section will get too long, it'll use up too much yarn, and overall your shawl is just going to be a monster shawl. There's definitely a difference between a beautiful shawl that's very wearable and just too much shawl, so we don't want to go that far into it. Okay, so that is section 11, lace 1. You can also reference it in the event page under discussion. Section 13, which is the garter, is using color 3 only, and instead of repeating rows 1 and 2 10 times more, we're repeating it 3 times more. It just keeps it all in proportion according to the other sections. This was my cast on, and this is color 1 in the garter stitch. And this is what we call the fade, where we're introducing color 2 and striping it in along with color 1. So it gives you a very nice soft transition into color 2, which is the lace section, and then it fades back into color 3 garter stitch, and then it fades into color 4 for the dramatic scalloped lace section. So that was page 6, a little change. Page 7, we have 2 changes. Section 17 garter using color 3. Please note that we repeat rows 1 and 2 3 more times, not 10 times. And section 19 in lace 1 pattern using color 2, we repeat rows 3 to 10 2 more times. And that might be it. Okay, and then there is another switch on page 9. So at section 25, you're in the garter stitch using color 3 only. At this point, the way the yardage works out in Richard's yarn compared to the designer's original yarn choice, you will not have enough yarn to complete section 25 in garter using color 3 only. So that's perfectly fine. That was all planned for. So we make the switch to color 1 for that section, and then you'll be fading color 1 and 2 together for section 26. So that will also be in your cheat sheet notes on the discussion thread. And then in our knit along today in the store, one of our lovely knitters noticed a little error in the chart. And I didn't follow the chart, I was just following the written directions, so I did not notice it. That's why we love to have knit alongers joining us in a project, because that will increase the number of eyes that are on the pattern. So lace chart 2, it's mentioning section 15, work rows 1 to 34 once, then rows 3 to 26 once more. That contradicts what's in the written directions. It should be repeat rows 3 to 18 once more. If you're following the written directions, don't worry, everything is fine there. So those are the changes so that you will get a beautiful shawl and just something that's not too long that you can't deal with in terms of styling. So I'm just going to show you different ways that you can wear Sonoran. It's very classic. You can throw one end over the shoulder and then maybe put a nice brooch or a shawl pin on it. And then you can also wear it as a long scarf. So I think you can see here I'll never be able to fit the full width in on camera. Let's do it in 3 sections. Okay, this is section number 1 from the cast on. And then we go into that beautiful center section, which has the largest repeat of the lace work. It's very dramatic. And then we have section 3, which brings us to the cast off edge. And today I'm also going to show you how to weave in the tails. That's why I've left a couple out after blocking. Okay, so another way to style your shawl is to fold it in half. So we're at the center point here, and then wrap it over your neck and grab the 2 ends, we'll call them tails, and just pull them through that center section. Much easier to do when you're actually wearing the shawl yourself. So that will shorten the shawl quite a bit because you've doubled it over and you've created a little bit of a slip through. And then you can style it by bringing it over to the side, have it straight in the center, and you can also put a nice shawl pin or brooch on with a bit of bling. So that's style number 2. And then the third one again is in the form of the long scarf. So make sure I get my right side facing, although the pattern is just as pretty on the wrong side as it is on the right side. So I'm starting with the halfway point of the shawl, which is that wide lace section, over the shoulders. And then I'm bringing one end over to the front, and the other end over to the front. Does that look okay? Well, it should sort of meet in the middle. And of course I'd have the end sewn in if I was going to wear it. That just gives a nice drapey look. Let's see if we can see the whole length of it there. Yeah. Okay, so that's number 3. And then just to modify that a little bit and shorten it up even more and make your neck feel extra warm and cozy, I'm just going to tie a loose knot. And I think that's actually the way that the designer is modeling it on the front of her pattern. There, so you can have it tied in the front or just take it a little bit to the side. Good. So 4 different ways there to give you some inspiration on how to wear your new spring shawl. So I will come back to that and show you how to sew in the ends. Just going to catch my breath. And as for blocking, today we noticed there were 2 or 3 shawls in our in-store knit-along group, and there was a big difference between using the same yarn, Richard's Pepino. There's a big difference in size of the lace pattern pre-blocking compared to after blocking using the same size needles as I've used. So that just gives you an indication of how much you can block the shawl after. So this was soaked in the Eucalan. I think I soaked it for about 40 minutes, room temperature, in a big pail. And then I came back, squeezed out the suds, squeezed out as much water as I could, put it in a large bath towel, stretched the shawl out to about 24-inch width, and then I rolled the towel up and just kept squeezing, rolling, squeezing, rolling. That soaks up as much water as possible. And then I had to stretch it out on my blocking mat across the kitchen floor because it does take up a lot of length. And I used the blocking pins. I'm going to come back with the blocking pins. blocking pins to aggressively pull the lace sections into shape, because as you're knitting it, you're going to find that your lace sides tend to wiggle in and out, and that's just from the types of knit two together and double decreases in the big wide lace work, not so much in the smaller lace work. But I really had to pin the edges out to keep the edges straight, and then I really had to pin the lace sections to spread it open so you can really see the detail, and that's what will create the scalloped effect in the garter stitch. So lots and lots of aggressive blocking. I was using Knitter's Pride rainbow knit blockers, and they come in a set of 12 blockers with 8 pins and 8 blockers with 4 pins. So you have sort of half blockers. I better bring them up to the camera. I find they work the best for blocking shawls. So that is what they look like. And these are stainless steel pins in heavy plastic cards, so you can shape them in whatever form you need. And these are the 4 on the smaller card. So that's the blocking. It dried actually very quickly. I'd say a day and a half. So if you have the space outdoors and it's a nice day, that would probably work best if you have a deck or a patio. If you don't have a lot of space, then I would say your next best option is to fold the shawl in half so that you're taking up half the length. That will work fine too. Okay, so I think that's all the tips I can give you on Sonoran. So I'll bring it closer now, and then I can show you how to sew in your ends as invisibly as possible, because we want the shawl to look neat and tidy on the wrong side and the right side, of course, so that it can be reversible and all the lovely knitters can admire your work and say, oh my gosh, I can't see where you've sewn in your ends. So you'll notice that all the ends happen on one side of the work. So this is the wrong side. And there are a lot of ends because of all the color changes. So I've already sewn in the ends here, here, and I've left one here. I've left 2 here. So those are the ones I'll demonstrate with. Okay, so I'm just using a blunt darning needle with a large eye. This one has a bent tip, which makes it easy to pick up the stitches. And the main thing to remember is you want to sew the end into its own color. So I am catching the light color from underneath, and I'm catching the back of the garter stitch, which resembles a purl stitch. So I've come up, and now I'm going to go down in the next purl, purl ridge, purl stitch, and then I'm going to come up, and that way I'm creating a bit of a wave, and I'm following the natural contour of the garter stitch row. So it's just an up and a down motion. Try to go in for about 2 or 3 inches because the yarn is very springy and it will bounce back once it's blocked. I'm not pulling very tight. I'm letting the stitches just naturally sit at the same tension, and then you always have to stretch it to make sure that you haven't pulled it too tightly. So when you feel you've gone about 2 inches in, just snip it. No knots are required. and it will very quietly disappear into the background. I can't even find, well, there I've sewn in, yeah, I've sewn in the light purple shade called Fizzy Pop into the green yellow speckle, and you can't even tell. And that's the wrong side. So imagine how nice it'll look on the right side. So that's how to finish your ends for the Sonoran Shawl. Garter stitch gives you such a great little hiding place on the wrong side. We don't want to sew our ends into the lace work because of course that will be very, very obvious. Okay, so now we'll move on to project number 2, which was the second choice for the knit along. And that one is called Heat of Food Cardigan. Extremely popular on Ravelry. It's been knit many, many times for many, many years. I think some of the knitters even say they've knit 3 of them. Different yarns, different colors. And this one we're using also a fingering weight. Instead of the speckles, we're going towards the tonal shades of Lillian Pine. So that was one option. Lillian Pine is merino cashmere nylon, 100 grams and 420 yards. So depending on what size you have chosen, it would be 2 skeins, maybe 3 or 4. And then we've also chosen Alma, which is another merino in the soft tones. And this one is 100 grams, so it will take 2 to 4 skeins as well. There are 2 shades that are lovely for spring and summer. And I will try to get a picture next week. We do have a couple of the knit-alongers in the shop group, Knitting with Alma. And then the color I've chosen for my shop sample is in the Unique Fingering, and that's also a merino cranberry shade, and it's very tonal. And I know the dark colors are a little bit scary to work with when you're doing lace work, but if you have good lighting, and sometimes put a white pillowcase on your lap so that it highlights the stitches, you'll find it's not difficult at all. That's another shade in the Unique Fingering in the tonal. And then we have a nice hot pink, which really catches the eye. Okay, so fingering weight for both projects. And this one is knit, the pattern reference is a 3.5 circular needle because you're doing the whole width of your sleeves and then the whole width of the body at one time. I sized up to a 3.75 millimeter because I wanted the lace work to open up a little bit more. And I know with blocking that will happen. Right now it does look a little bit crushed in. So I'll try to stretch it and give you an idea. It's really going to block out nicely. Just have to have faith. And that's the magic of working with merino yarns. You can never over block them or stretch out the fibers and have to worry that they won't bounce back to shape. They just have their own natural elasticity, so they will stretch out, but they'll also come back if you've overstretched them. Hi Karen. Hi two Karens. How are you doing? Hi Tammy. I hope your weather's better than ours. We are having a dull, rainy day and it feels quite damp in here. That's why I have my trusty wrist warmers on. So what we started with in week 1 of the knit along for the Heat of Food cardigan was a crochet cast on. So instead of casting on with your knitting needles, we used a crochet hook, and the pattern was calling for 2 of these chains to be created. One was short and one was long, and there was a very good reason for that. The finished cardigan, if I bring the picture up, you'll get a better idea of how it started. So you'll see at the back of the cardigan It's a continuous piece from the elbow edge of the sleeve right across the yoke to the other elbow edge of sleeve. So that is the part that was worked first, and I have completed that part. So I've gone all the way around the width of the sleeve, and then they're calling for a 3 needle bind off, which I've done on one side. I've left the other side unworked just so you can see the difference. And it's a very simple lace pattern that's repeated all the way throughout. Knit 1, purl 1 ribbing at the borders, and then an 8-row lace pattern throughout. And now for my jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so I did finish the full width. So on the first side, I picked up stitches as I was instructed to on my crochet cast on chain. So that would be for sleeve number 1. That takes me all the way to the underarm. And here I still have the crochet chain number 2 highlighted in the yellow, which goes all the way across the back neck area and ends at the edge of sleeve number 2. So I haven't completed that 3 needle bind off yet. The first 3 needle bind off is here, and you can see it's got a nice stretchy finish, and it was worked on the wrong side of the work. So that's what the ridge looks like on the inside. And now I have the remainder of my stitches after completing that on my circular needle. And my next step will be to take a second needle, also circular, so you can work from either end, and I'll have to pick up 1 stitch for every crochet chain stitch. So I'll be picking up the cranberry color, and I won't let go of the crochet chain. I won't unzip it until I've got every single stitch on, which is over 140, to the very end. And once I've got all the stitches on my second needle, I will unzip this little yellow cord, and then I will fold the 2 needles in half with the wrong side facing. So it will look much like this, pointing to the right. Needle 1 at the front, needle 2 will be at the back, and then I'll take my third needle, and a 3 needle bind off is created by knitting 1 stitch on the front needle, 1 stitch from the back needle, knit them together, repeat again, and then cast off your first stitch over your second. So it's saving you all the time of sewing the work, and it just gives a more professional, neat finish. So that is the stage I'm at. I'm going to put the link in the event page for the 3 needle bind off for anyone who's not tried that technique before. It's not a difficult technique to do. You just have to have your wits about you, and a little bit like holding chopsticks, you're holding 2 needles in the left hand and knitting with the third one to do your cast off. So there are no changes in the pattern so far. I've done everything exactly as directed. The finished size for the one I'm doing, I'm working on the small for shop sample in the pretty cranberry color. It will come out to a body width of 48 inches, and the sizing runs from extra small all the way to extra large, which would come out to 54 inches, 54 1/4 inches, somewhere around there. So by next week I will be transitioning down into the body and just working back and forth in the lace work. So I'll have more to show you on that one. Has anyone started their Heat of Food cardigan yet? And how are you doing on your Sonoran Shawl? We do actually have some knit-alongers working on both the shawl and the cardigan. Okay, so I'm going to move into the trivia now. And congratulations to week 1 incentive ballot winner. That was Janet. Oh, and we do have our grand prize right here. And this will be drawn on the 4th week. There'll be a live draw. So anyone who's participating in the knit-along and has purchased any of the yarns that were suggested does have an early bird ballot in the ballot box over here. And some of the lucky incentive trivia winners will have a 2nd or 3rd ballot to go in here as well. And the prize basket has a bit of an Easter theme. There's some hand-dyed yarn, some patterns to go with it, and some very, very fun stitch stoppers in Easter egg colors: red, yellow, pink, orange, purple, and some other little extras at the bottom of the basket. So if the Easter Bunny has not brought you any special treats next weekend, maybe wait an extra week and see what you can get from the Knitting Bunny. So the Sonoran Desert is the only place where saguaro, gotta get that right, saguaro cactus grow naturally. They are a protected species, and to move one of them from one place to the next, if there's one in your backyard, would require a permit. It takes nearly 70 years to produce flowers on one of these cactus, and if you see a saguaro with arms, you know, the ones that sort of look like a man waving from a distance, you'll know that that cactus is at least 100 years old. That's something I didn't know, and I have a much deeper appreciation now, driving through the desert and admiring all the cactus. So, leading into our trivia question. The Sonoran Desert extends from Mexico through the States and ends with a small portion in Canada. For the incentive ballot, please feel free to post your guess in the comments. Name a town or city which lies within the Sonoran Desert. You have lots of choices there because it is a very, very big area that it covers. And there's no real wrong answer. It's just taking a guess, seeing who's right, and it'll be a randomly picked winner. Okay, so that's all I can share with you this week. I'll be busy working this weekend on my cardigan. If you have a chance to look at our events page and go into the discussion tab, you'll see another version of the Sonoran Shawl in beautiful kind of earthy desert shades. And you'll be happy to know that already in the desert, some of the flowers are in bloom on the cactus. So as I get some pictures that I can show you of the different combos knit up, I will be happy to post them and let you admire them and maybe feel inspired too. Have a great weekend, everyone, and happy knitting until next week. Thanks for watching.